How's it going, guys, and welcome to today's video. In the last video you saw me take cattle over to the winter pasture, and now that the cows are over there, that has opened up a whole slew of new jobs that we're going to have to stay on top of. This time of year the grass that's growing out there actually doesn't have a ton of nutritive value to it. So what I've done for the past couple of years is during January and most of February, just kind of depending on what the weather does, I'll make sure that I supplement the cows out there with some protein tubs. Now, protein tubs work great, but they are a little bit expensive. So this year I decided to try something a little bit different. And that's what we're doing today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. When I went to buy protein tubs this year, I just kind of got to thinking, what is a protein tub really? But some sort of a protein supplement, maybe some minerals mixed in there, and then usually like some molasses or sweet feed and some sort of a binding agent to kind of hold it all together in that block. So basically what I decided is that protein tubs are just made up of a few basic ingredients, things that are actually pretty easy to get your hands on. So I thought, well, why not try to make my own? The only things that I don't have are the molasses and the binding agent. Now, I think the molasses is used to sort of entice them to eat more, and I don't really think that's going to be an issue because I know that they already like the mineral, and the soybean meal smells good, so I think they're going to like that too. Now, from what I can learn on the internet, the binding agent that they use in commercial protein tubs like that is Portland cement, basically. I don't have any of that on hand, and that kind of got me thinking, why do they even need to make it a block like that? It could be for shipping purposes, or more likely it's probably to kind of limit the intake because they've got that sweet tasting molasses. I think if the cows just got to licking on that and there was no way to really slow them down, they probably just overconsume and waste a lot of that good supplement. Making a solid block like that is one way to limit intake. That will certainly be effective, but there's another way that you can do this as well. You can just add salt. My plan is to take one of these blue tubs that's actually left over from a protein tub that I had last year, and I think I'll put some soybean meal in here, some mineral, and then I'll add some salt. Now, I've got to get all the ratios right so that I'm giving the cattle what I actually want them to have. But once I get that all figured out, I'm going to put this tub in the manger back at the ranch, so hopefully the cows can't knock it over. And then the real test is going to be how fast do they go through it. Once I figure out the good ratio of soybean meal to mineral to salt, basically to a point where the cattle aren't just hogging through this all in one day, then I can take that recipe over to the winter pasture and give it to the cattle that actually need it. The biggest problem with this experiment is that the cows at the winter pasture are on lower protein grass, so they will probably have just a natural desire to want to consume a little bit more of the protein supplement than the cows back at the ranch will. But still, with that being said, I think that just kind of getting my mixture close with these cows is going to help me in fine-tuning what I give to those cows. Since this whole idea is still just in the experimental phase, I think I'm just going to make small batches, about 100 pounds or so, until I get the mixture figured out, and then I'll make a big batch that I can take over there. So out of this 100-pound batch, we're going to start with 50 pounds of soybean meal. Next, I'm going to add 25 pounds of salt. And last, I'll do 25 pounds of mineral. Now I'm just going to try to stir this up the best I can. All right, I think that's pretty good. So in our tub, we have 100 pounds of total material, 50 pounds of soybean meal, 25 pounds of mineral, and 25 pounds of salt. The soybean meal is 46% protein. So 46% of 50 pounds equals 23 pounds. So in this tub, we have 23 pounds of protein and 100 total pounds of material. 23 pounds divided by 100 is 0.23, which means that this is a 23% protein mix. That make sense? The one bag of soybean meal cost me $17. Half a bag of Wind and Rain costs $17, and half a bag of salt costs about $4. So that brings my total cost to make 100 pounds to $38. Normally when you buy these tubs, they weigh 200 pounds. So if we double that $38, that brings us to $76. So I can make a 200-pound protein tub for less than $80. Now, depending on where you live and what those kinds of things cost where you're at, that may or may not be a good deal. I see protein tubs going anywhere from $80 right on up to $150. So to me, this is a pretty good deal. And I know exactly what the ingredients are that went into it, and I know the exact proportions of all the different things that I'm after. The financial aspect of this makes sense. The nutritional aspect of this makes sense, but none of that means anything if the cows won't eat it. So even though it's dark right now, I think I'm still going to put this in the back of the side-by-side and run it down to the ranch so that hopefully in the morning I'll have a good idea about whether or not they even want to eat this. I'm actually really encouraged to see how they're taken to that. There's definitely some interest. I think they like it, but you can certainly tell when they eat it by how much they lick their noses that it must be really salty. So I think that's going to be good for limiting the intake and making sure that they don't just down this all overnight. Before I leave to go back home tonight, I'm going to drag this tub so that it's actually underneath the overhang of the barn. Therefore, if we do get a little bit of a shower tonight, it should keep everything dry. I think this mixture getting wet would actually be one of the worst things that could happen to it. So before I start taking it over to the winter pasture, I'm going to have to come up with some sort of a mineral feeder that will keep everything dry. Over the next few days, it'll be interesting to watch this and see if they eat it too fast or if they even eat it at all. And then after probably a week or two, I think I will know if this is the way that we're going to do things from now on. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.